Buen dia, Pilipinas! Annyeonghaseyo, Segi! Good day, learners! Welcome to Introduction to World Religions and Belief Systems class. I am Sir Greg, your Humanities and Social Sciences teacher, and let me guide you in this learning journey. Before we continue, I hope that you are in your most comfortable learning spot. Have a copy of your self-learning module, activity sheet, notebook, and pen for noting important details. I know that you are all excited, so let us begin. Believing itself as the more genuine version of Buddha's teachings, Mahayana Buddhism has diverged into numerous schools, with each developing its own canon and ritual since its founding more than 2,000 years ago. Also known as the Great Vehicle, Mahayana Buddhism emerged out of monastic rule and doctrinal differences within the original form of Buddhism. While the two major Buddhist schools of Mahayana and Theravada both originated in the foundational teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, their methods in search for liberation from the cycle of reincarnation can be very different. They may be viewed as two different articulations of the original principles of the historical Buddha. For example, in contrast to the Theravada school of thought, Mahayana Buddhism aims to extend religious authority to a larger number of people. Not a single group, but more of an assembly of Buddhist customs. Mahayana Buddhism is widespread in China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, and Tibet. Within its openness to more traditional religious views, it has developed a wide appeal to common people and gained tremendous grounds in becoming one of the most successful missionary religions in the world. During the 3rd century BCE, a number of subtle variations began to take place in Buddhism at a time when the Mauryan king Ashoka was propagating Buddhist gospels through missionary efforts. The Mahasamhika, or the Great Sangha, one of the early Buddhist schools, may have been the source for the initial growth of Mahayana Buddhism, especially during the Second Buddhist Council that occurred 100 years after Buddha's Parinirvana. Considered a historical event, a religious schism between the Mahasamhika and the Shatvira Nikaya and sect of the elders, another major Buddhist school, transpired the said council. These new ideas eventually concretized, resulting in a new form of Buddhism quite different from the original teachings taught by Siddhartha Gautama and to those accepted by Theravada Buddhists. In short, Mahayana Buddhism practically became a new religion. These new developments within the newfound Buddhist sect comprise a set of differing notions pertaining to the original founder and great teacher Siddhartha Gautama himself. First, Mahayana Buddhism believed that Siddhartha secretly taught key principles to chosen people, to his most dedicated disciples, or to the most faithful who could interpret these teachings in time. Simply put, any teaching can now be added to the emerging Buddhist faith. Second, Mahayana Buddhists forwarded the concept that Siddhartha Gautama was actually a benevolent celestial being, not just a mere human being. Because of his love for humankind and zeal to help the people, he came to our world in human form. Third, Mahayana Buddhists advanced the radical idea that Siddhartha Gautama was not a Buddha. There were other divine beings that came to our world even before Siddhartha. Some of them came after him, and still others will come in the future. These things came to earth to help lessen people's suffering and lead them to salvation. This unique concept impressed many followers because they can now revere these beings, study their lives, construct temples, and develop an innovative belief system replete with rituals, hymns, among others. In time, missionaries of Mahayana Buddhism were able to penetrate new places without fear or reprisal from native religions, since deities or local gods can be treated as manifestations or incarnations of Buddha. Other religions could be absorbed by Mahayana Buddhism by way of this key principle in their proselytizing activities. While Theravada was the first to enter China during the 1st century CE, Buddhism did not gain much ground not until the arrival of Mahayana in the 3rd century. In time, Mahayana Buddhism took a major foothold of China while local beliefs were relegated to lesser stature. Korea was the next territory to be influenced by Mahayana school around 4th century CE and followed by Japan in the 6th century CE. Mahayana Buddhism existed alongside Japan's native religion, Shintoism. Mongolia and Tibet likewise embraced Mahayana Buddhism. All these places developed their own versions of Mahayana Buddhism that exist up until the present day. Ironically, while Buddhism was being propagated and gaining support in other countries, even to the remotest places, it was steadily dying in India where it all started. A series of invasions destroyed numerous Buddhist centers and temples. The rising tide of Islam in India resulted in forcible conversions of Buddhists to the Muslim faith. Meanwhile, Hinduism was able to gradually absorb challenging religions such as Buddhism and Jainism due to its tolerance and openness to other belief systems. The Hindu belief that Siddhartha Gautama was a manifestation of Vishnu contributed to the fading influence of Buddhism in India. Mahayana Buddhism disappeared in India during the 11th century. Quite expectedly, only a handful of Indians become truly Buddhist, leading to contemporary times. Nonetheless, Mahayana Buddhism is still the most popular branch of Buddhism in the world today. Pure Land Buddhism began in India around the 2nd century BCE, spread to China by the 2nd century CE, and reached Japan around 6th century CE. When believers die, it is their objective to live in the Pure Land of the West, or the Sukhavati. By simply reciting the name of the Amitabha with utmost attentiveness many times during the day, they may be reborn in this paradise where they can work to achieve enlightenment much easier. Amitabha, the god who supervises over a Western paradise, is the focus of this sect. Once in Sukhavati, the people can experience the delight in hearing Amitabha teach the Dharma in preparation for the entry to Nirvana. Aside from meditations, this Buddhist sect utilizes chants and recitations to focus on helpful thoughts. The establishment of intuitive sect of Buddhism can be traced around 6th century CE to the work of an Indian monk named Bodhidharma, whose life stories are shrouded with mysteries and numerous legends. These concepts entered China from India and then carried onward to Korea and Japan. In China, it came to be known as Chan, or Chan Buddhism, has close affinity with Taoist philosophy because both are kinds of mysticism. In Japan, it reached its peak with the development of Zen, which is a blend of Indian Mahayana Buddhism and Taoism. Followers of this school are called the meditative Buddhists, focusing on meditation as the path to liberation. Zen Buddhism is basically a monastic discipline. The word for meditation in India is jhana, Chan in China, and Zen in Japan. The intuitive sects emphasize that salvation is a personal matter and one cannot receive assistance from other entities such as another person or institution just to realize the inner truths of religion. A rationalist Buddhist school of thought called the Tiantai emerged around the 6th century CE, with its name originating from a mountain in southeastern China where its founder Qi or Shi lived. Apart from the meditational practices, this sect taught that one must utilize reason and study the scriptures and doctrines to discover Buddhist truths. Qi emphasized that acts of studying and contemplation were both vital for the spiritual enlightenment. Apart from instructions on the scriptures and silent meditation, other means to reach this goal include mystical communion with eternal, ascetic discipline, and meritorious deeds, and simple faith in the mercy of the Buddha. A Japanese Buddhist monk by the name of Nichiren Daishonin, who lived during the 13th century during the Kamakura period, began to teach that the path towards attaining enlightenment rested solely on the devotion to the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Buddhism, which is purely a Japanese phenomenon, perceives itself as the only rightful version of Buddhism. Nichiren Buddhism teaches that individuals must take responsibilities to enhance themselves, or what is called human revolution, and in turn to improve the world's lot. Enlightenment is accessible to every individual on earth simply by opening one's inherent Buddha nature in this world. A scripture scholar and an activist, Nichiren himself is considered a Buddha. Buddhism was officially introduced into Tibet around the 7th century CE during the reign of Songtsen Gampo, considered the founder of the Tibetan Empire. While the theological foundation of Tibetan Buddhism is similar to that of Mahayana Buddhism, the isolation of the region allowed for the development of many features that were incorporated into the growing Buddhist school in the Tibetan land. One major distinguishing feature of the Tibetan Buddhism is the use of magic as coping mechanism in the Tibetan way of life. It has its own set of clergy, the lamas, and they are commonly senior members of the monastic community. In fact, of all the Buddhist sanghas, the Tibetan sect has developed the most elaborate of clergy. While the Mahayana branch accepts the canonical texts of the Theravada school, such as the Tripitaka, which is the collection of Buddha's teaching, it also has a wide array of philosophical and devotional texts, especially since Mahayana Buddhism initially became more receptive to change and to subsequent innovations even from indigenous culture. Mahayana Buddhism includes many sacred writings which are nearly identical in content with the Pali Canon of Theravada sect. The canon of Mahayana Buddhism also consists of the Tripitaka, namely Sutra Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, and Abhidharma Pitaka. Meanwhile, Mahayana Buddhists have teachings or sutras not present in the Theravada school, and the followers believe they have recovered the original teachings of the Buddha. In fact, principal scriptures of Mahayana sect have no parallels in the Pali Canon. One of the most popular and prominent Mahayana Buddhist texts or sutra is the Lotus Sutra, that literally means correct Dharma, White Lotus Sutra, or Sutra of the Lotus of the Wonderful Law in Sanskrit. A sutra pertains to one of the discourses of the historical Buddha that comprise the basic text of Buddhist sacred writing. The teachings of Siddhartha Gautama are generally recorded in a wide corpus of sutra and often taking the form of dialogues instead of analytically explicating a certain viewpoint. The concept of Trikaya or three bodies pertains to the teaching of Mahayana Buddhism about the nature of the Buddha and reality. While Theravada Buddhism puts very limited emphasis on Trikaya, this doctrine is very well mentioned in Mahayana Buddhism, which states that each Buddha has three bodies, namely Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. The table shows the summary of the nature of the three bodies of Buddha. One of the distinct features of Mahayana Buddhism concerns its teaching about an enlightened being or the Bodhisattva, or the enlightened existence, which is the ultimate way for any Buddhist to live in this world. A Bodhisattva has generated bodhicitta, or the spontaneous desire to achieve the state of being enlightened. The concept of bodhicitta greatly differs between the two main schools of Buddhism. The teachings of Theravada place a great emphasis on self-liberation, where there is a total reliance on oneself to eradicate sufferings. On the other hand, apart from the self-liberation, it is also essential for Mahayana adherents to assist other sentient beings in their quest for liberation. The attainment of nirvana is not confined to oneself as an arhat or the perfected one, but must be shared to all striving beings. Based on the Mahayana tradition, a bodhisattva must pass 10 bhumis before attaining the so-called Buddhahood. These are extensions of the Eightfold Path. The bhumis are frequently associated with the paramitas or perfections. Translated as to cross over the other shore, paramitas imply crossing from the sea of suffering to the shore of happiness. One is lifted from the cycle of rebirth to finally achieve liberation. While the first 5 paramitas are principally concerned with the accumulation of merits, the 6th paramita involves the attainment of wisdom. Several Mahayana texts identify 10 bhumis, but many schools list their own path to development. The 10 Bhumis as lifted from Avatamsaka Sutra or Flower Garland Sutra, one of the most influential sutra of Mahayana Buddhism in East Asia. In Pramodita Bhumi or joyful land, the Bodhisattva begins the journey joyful with the thought of enlightenment. He has taken Bodhisattva vows, the most basic of which is, "May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings." Even at this early stage, he recognizes the emptiness of phenomena. In this stage, the Bodhisattva cultivates Dana Paramita, the perfection of giving or generosity, in which it is recognized there are no givers and no receivers. In Vimala Bhumi or land of purity, the Bodhisattva cultivates Sila Paramita, the perfection of morality which culminates in selfless compassion for all beings. He is purified of immoral conduct and dispositions. In Prabhakari Bhumi or luminous or radiant land, the Bodhisattva is now purified of the 3 poisons. He cultivates Shanti Paramita or the perfection of forbearance. Now he knows that he can bear all burdens and hardships to finish the journey. He achieves the 4 absorptions or jhanas. While in Arkismati Bhumi or the brilliant or blazing land, remaining false conceptions are burned away and good qualities are pursued. This level may also be associated with Virya Paramita, the perfection of energy. In Durangama Bhumi or the far-reaching land, the Bodhisattva acquires the power of upaya or skillful means to help others realize enlightenment. At this point, the Bodhisattva has become a transcendent Bodhisattva who can manifest in the world in whatever form is most needed. While in Achala Bhumi or the immovable land, the Bodhisattva can no longer be disturbed because Buddhahood is within sight. From here, he can no longer fall back to earlier stages of development. And in Sadhumati Bhumi or the land of good thoughts, the Bodhisattva understands all dharmas and is able to teach others. In Dharma Mega Bhumi or the land of Dharma clouds, Buddhahood is confirmed and he enters Tushita heaven. Tushita heaven is the heaven of contented gods, where there are Buddhas who will be reborn only one more time. Maitreya is said to live there also. Mahayana Buddhism developed 6 paramitas or perfections early in its history. Later, the list was fleshed out to include 10 perfections. The 6 or 10 perfections are virtues to be cultivated and practiced on the path to realizing enlightenment. The Bodhisattva is the ideal of practice for all Mahayana Buddhists. With the additional 4 perfections, we see the fruits of wisdom manifested in the world. Buddhism integrates an assortment of religious practices and devotional rituals with the objective of aiding worshippers in their journey towards enlightenment and in bringing blessings to each and everyone. In Buddhist temples, they pray and chant to pay their respect to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, such as Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, and Amitabha. They also offer vegetarian food and light incense to pay homage to these important divine beings. Mahayana temples are sacred spaces, while only a simple temple layout can be seen in Theravada Buddhism with an image of Siddhartha Gautama as the focal point of worship. Mahayana rituals can be quite elaborate, with the addition of other disciples of Siddhartha Gautama and important bodhisattvas. Worshippers also recite chants and undertake pilgrimages to sites of Buddhist importance. Meditational activities are fundamental in almost all popular forms of Buddhism. For Theravada Buddhism and Zen Buddhism, the practice of meditation is the only means to attain liberation. With the introduction of Mahayana Buddhism in other places, local culture influenced the development of Mahayana Buddhist practices. The lotus that symbolizes purity, the 8 spoke wheels that represent the Dharma, and the different hand gestures or mudras are important symbols for Mahayana Buddhism. The Tuchi Foundation, or the Compassionate Relief, was established by a Buddhist nun Cheng Yen in 1966 in Taiwan. It was a charity organization anchored on the teachings of the Buddha. Initially founded as a small group of 30 housewives, it has grown immensely as a civic group, now having 10 million members and organization chapters in 47 countries worldwide. Due to widespread poverty and inadequate social services, there came a need to establish the Tuchi Foundation that principally advocates the four endeavors of charity, medicine, education, and humanity. Ritual suicide led by the Buddhist monks have transpired in the 20th century as a form of protest and governmental actions. For example, a crisis occurred between Buddhists and the South Vietnamese government led by Ngo Diem in the 1960s that had tremendous effect in politics, militancy, and religious tolerance. As a result of persecutions undertaken by the government against Buddhist monks, began to lambast the regime that eventually resulted in the self-immolation of Thich Quang Duc, a Vietnamese Mahayana Buddhist monk. He voluntarily burned himself to death in a busy Saigon Road intersection in 1963. Later on, several other monks followed his example. The regime tried in vain to suppress Buddhist resistance through massive retaliation and nationwide assaults in Buddhist pagodas. Temples were defaced, monks were beaten, and Quang Duc's cremated remains were confiscated. Eventually, the regime lost support from the United States and an army coup brought down Diem. Amid religious protests and nonviolent struggle, Diem was assassinated in 1963. In Japan, a militant and missionary form of Buddhism was founded in 1930 called the Soka Gakkai, a religious movement based on the teachings of Nichiren Buddhism. During the Second World War, the group temporarily disbanded only to emerge mightily after the war. After its hiatus, the members of this group grew rapidly while employing hardline and contemptuous recruitment methods, including coercion, fear, intimidation, and the use of threats. A political party was even formed by Soka Gakkai, the Komeito, that became the third most powerful in Japan. For centuries, both China and India has been claiming Tibet as part of their territories. Tibet practically enjoyed some degree of independence as none of the claimants pressed their claim. In 1950, however, China annexed Tibet and negotiated the so-called 17-point agreement with the government of the 14th Dalai Lama. Rejected repeatedly by the Dalai Lama, this document confirmed China's authority over Tibet, but the area was granted autonomy. In 1959, the Dalai Lama failed in his bid to oust China's puppet rule as the Tibetan uprising was defeated by more powerful Chinese force. The Dalai Lama, together with his followers, escaped to India and are now living there as refugees. With the implementation of Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward from 1958 to 1961, or China's socio-economic campaign to transform the country into a socialist society, between 200,000 to 1 million Tibetans tragically met their death. During Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, a socio-political movement from 1966 to 1976 aimed at eliminating capitalism and traditionalism from China. Around 6,000 monasteries were destroyed. Tragically speaking, China's occupation of Tibet has led to countless deaths of many Buddhist monks, nuns, and laity who wish to continue their religious practices in their native land. From 1959 to 1977, almost all elements of Tibetan Buddhism were obliterated. While many 100,000 Tibetans were killed, others were driven to exile. Presently, the Dalai Lama has been continuously visiting other countries, preaching a message of hope and peace. He has been given numerous citations for various international advocacies and teaching activities, such as the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Community Leadership in 1959. Nobel Peace Prize in 1989, U.S. Congressional Gold Medal in 2007, and Templeton Prize in 2012. In this lesson, you have learned that the Mahasamhika, one of the early Buddhist schools, became the source for the initial growth of Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhists advanced the radical idea that Siddhartha Gautama was not the only Buddha. There were other divine beings that came to our world even before Siddhartha. Some of them came after him and still others in the future. The canon of Mahayana Buddhism consists of the three Pitaka, namely the Sutra Pitaka or discourse, Vinaya Pitaka or the discipline, and the Abhidharma Pitaka or the ultimate doctrine. Mahayana Buddhism adopted the Sanskrit usage rather than the Pali form of common terms strictly used in Theravada Buddhism. One of the most popular and prominent Mahayana Buddhist texts or sutra is the Lotus Sutra, containing the most definitive teachings of the Buddha. The concept of Trikaya or the three bodies pertains to the teaching of Mahayana Buddhism about the nature of the Buddha and reality. One distinct feature of Mahayana Buddhism concerns its teachings about an enlightened being or the Bodhisattva, or the enlightened existence, who is already eligible to enter nirvana but opts to forego this right to assist others attain the same state. Buddhism integrates an assortment of religious practices and devotional rituals with the objective of aiding worshippers in their journey towards enlightenment and in bringing blessings to each other and everyone. Mahayana Buddhism consists of a variety of schools and family of religions, including the Pure Land sect, the Intuitive sects, Rationalist sect, Socio-Political sect, and the Tibetan Buddhism. Before we end, challenge yourself by answering the checkpoint activity. Read the questions carefully and choose the letter of the correct answer. Item number 1. It is identical with perfect enlightenment that is absolute and beyond existence or non-existence. A. Dharmakaya. B. Nirmanakaya. C. Sambhogakaya. D. Tantra. Kindly write down your answer. Item number 2. He was believed by the Tibetans as the reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, or the Ocean of Wisdom. A. Ashoka Maurya. B. Dalai Lama. C. Siddhartha Gautama. D. Songchan Gampo. Kindly write down your answer. Let us continue with item number 3. Which of the following subdivision emphasized that the Bodhisattva is now purified with the 3 poisons? A. Abhimukhi Bhumi. B. Durangama Bhumi. C. Sudorjaya Bhumi. D. Prabhakari Bhumi. Kindly write down your answer. Item number 4. It emphasized that salvation is personal matter and one cannot receive assistance from other entities such as another person or institution just to realize the inner truths of religion. A. The Intuitive sects. B. The Pure Land Buddhism. C. The Rationalist sect. D. The Socio-Political sect. Kindly write down your answer. And finally, item number 5. It pertains to the teaching of Mahayana Buddhism about the nature of Buddha and reality. A. Bhumis. B. Maitreya. C. Paramitas. D. Trikaya. Kindly write down your answer. Here are the answers. Item number 1A, item number 2B, item number 3D, item number 4A, and item number 5D. Good job, learners! That concludes our lesson. I hope you have learned something and remembered all the important details of our lesson. If ever you forget, you may watch this video again until you master it. Please be reminded to accomplish all the remaining tasks in your self-learning module and in your activity sheet. Keep safe and see you in our next learning session.